T is ready. Mike is ready. Let's check. I'm ready. But I guess the important question is, are you ready? Hey, welcome to the Mykel Broady podcast. I am Mykel Broady. Thank you so much for listening today. This is a very special episode. I can't cap right off the bat. We have a very special guest, just as always. This woman is just amazing. And I already sense that I'm getting ahead of myself. And I don't want to introduce her quite yet. And so let's go into this title, Lowest Highs. We're in the second episode of the Oxymoronic Gem series, season 2, episode 8 overall for the podcast. And again, I have some explaining to do. What does that necessarily mean? I may get a gist of what you're talking about, but break it down for me a bit further. And so put simply, it's about changing your perspective towards lows in your life, how you view lows in your life, right? Because a lot of us have them, many of them, some more than others, as we know. But I want to figure out how can we change our perspective and to not look at them as lows, but to look at them as lowest highs. So there's still a high. There's still something good you can take away from your experience. So you have these typical elements of that represent being low. And this list is not exhaustive, by the way. So it could be financial struggles, relationship problems, health issues, all of the above, 2 or 3 of the whatever it is. But then you have to realize something. You have to recognize what's within and in front of you. So the fact that you still have the opportunity to breathe, you still have the opportunity to dream of a better situation. If you're not happy with your current one, you can dream of a better day. You can dream of what may bring you joy. But you should know I'm not caught up on this idea of dreaming, because then you have the opportunity to act each and every day, just continuing to fight. And some people may be more restrained than others, but it's the journey, it's the fight, it's the spirit. And the last thing I want to highlight in terms of whenever you're in a low situation, something to remember is you have the opportunity to live. And that is a blessing in itself. That is forever a high. That's something I want to bring into this conversation today. With lowest highs, it's about how can we see these moments when we may be low in life? How can we change our perspective? How can we tackle it a different way that's more healthy, that's more beneficial, that's sustainable, that can help others out well beyond when we figure it out? And I'm joined today by a woman that has exemplified lowest highs throughout my whole life from the day I was born, as you've heard about in the episode with Coach Rich, Defy the Odds. I'm joined today by my mother, a lovely woman, Miss Jessica Broady. No more segments today. We get a whole podcast episode. Hey, Mom, how's it going?
I am doing amazing today, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm blessed to be here with you. Always have this opportunity to chat. And I want to start us off with a bit of a teaser question, something that's going to hint a lot about what we're going to talk about in this episode. So what's something you're grateful for? Something that just comes to mind at this moment?
First thing that always comes to my mind is you and your brother Malik. Every day I am so grateful for you guys, grateful for your journey, for your fight, for your drive. The one thing I always tell everybody is, more importantly, the kind of people you are. You guys are wonderful people who care about people. You have a great heart, and you go through life and you treat people right. And really, as a mother, that's all you can really ask for from your children. Everything else you guys do is just the icing on the cake. It's like, I'm so blessed to be your guys' mother, to be your friend. As a lot of people know, we do have a very unique, beautiful bond, the three of us, right, that only gets better every day, in my opinion. We're still learning, growing together, loving each other more and more, supporting each other through everything that we do, no matter if it's small or big. We're always there for each other. So I am completely grateful, blessed for you and your brother.
I love that. Thank you so much for that response. And it reminds me, you gave a really strong message to Malik and I when we were on our recent trip to celebrate your 40th birthday in San Diego, when you talked about just how much we mean to you and how even though the distance, you're still right there, no matter how far we go. And it's crazy because I wonder if Malik feels the same. I know he does. You speak so highly of us, and a question that just kept going through my head at that time when even you were giving that message was, when will you realize we are a reflection of you? When will you realize we are a reflection of you? So Thank you. Much as you give us our flowers and you think we're amazing human beings, put up a mirror to yourself and see just how far you've come yourself and how much you've taught us. And so, my friends, you can see we're getting into it already. We're definitely getting real vulnerable. And I also want to say, on as it relates, of course, I'm grateful for you and Malik as well. Each and every morning when I wake up, that is number 1 and 2 on what I'm grateful for, just off the top of my head. And on top of that, I know that I trust the listeners are going to understand more about this bond that, Malik, you and I have, the three amigos, and it's going to be
Three
really special.
amigos.
Yes, ma'am. And also another thing, you have everyone's attention right now. There's so many people that have admired different things about me, I understand, and they're listening to the podcast now because they're amazing supporters and they're a part of my village and they have part ownership in my success. But you are the woman they've always wanted. This is like this mystery. Who is his mother? Who is this woman he's always talking about? And so I'm glad that you're on the show right now. And trust me, no matter what you say, they are glued onto whatever you're going to say. So
No
let's
pressure.
dive. Yeah, no, let's dive right into the conversation. And so I wanted to ask you about being grateful to start off with, because I think that's a huge part of looking at things as a lowest high rather than just a low. But I also understand this phrase, this oxymoron, is still a bit ambiguous, and perhaps it can't be explained better than through experience, through sharing very vulnerable stories. And I definitely know you have one. Like I said, you've exemplified this your whole life. But I'll lead as you start to prepare what story you want to share with our listeners today. But I want to talk about my experience from last semester. And honestly, this is the whole inspiration behind this episode, was the struggle that I dealt with. And I talked to my mom on the phone, and I'm going to break down different things that happened in just a moment. But I would talk to my mom on the phone throughout this past semester in the spring. And at some points it would feel like it would be so weird when she would say I'm struggling, or we would be like, oh, this is a low point, because it can't be. Look at everything that's going on in my life. Look at how beautiful life is for me. And I'm blessed. And so I want to unpack this experience with you, because that was a huge part of me getting through it, was just trusting that one day, if I'm just present in the moment, if I'm not, woe me and trying to hurry up and rush past this time of struggle, maybe just one day I can share this message with others, right? And I want to address another point. I wanted to bring this up in the intro. Some people may think, Mykel, you're naive. You don't know my situation. It's easy for you to say, look at it as a lowest high, but you don't know it's so hard. I can't do anything. I'm restrained. And look, I understand. I will admit, I don't know your situation at all. But what I will assure you on is that I care about your situation. And if I can utilize my platform on this podcast to speak to you for a few minutes and to share advice that I've learned from my experience, and that is certainly something I'm going to do. So I will never know exactly what your situation is, but trust that I will do everything in my power to help you get through it, even if I don't know you. That's the vibe we're coming with today. And so to begin with this experience from last semester, to actually get into it, and Mom, feel free to kind of interject throughout the as I'm explaining this, because I know you were right with me step by step. It all started December of 2021, so last December. I left a company that I was very passionate about their mission. I loved the people, the relationships that I had formed, the opportunities that I had provided to me that I made and was provided to me, both, was just amazing. And I learned so much from my experience. And so there came a time, though, where I wasn't getting paid, the work I was giving them. And so I tried to see, is there a way that we can boost my pay up a bit? Because I love this company. I'm determined. I just feel my compensation isn't really lining up with my work. I'm doing a lot of different things and breaking down a lot of barriers for the company, especially in my department. And they didn't see me as any different than the other 100+ people they had in the program, unfortunately. And that hurt. And I had to make a decision. I'm not going to stay here where I'm not appreciated. Even though I love the company, I love the people, I've been so determined on what I can do in the long run with this company. I had to part ways because I had to bet on myself. They didn't see me. That's just point blank. The managers that I had at the time, they didn't see me. and that's okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm always going to bet on myself. And so that's when things kind of, I don't want to say got low, but it was a huge shift for me last December because now I'm away from this opportunity that I enjoyed so much. And on top of that, then you move on a bit further. I didn't have a job lined up. And so now I got to go searching for a job. The whole reason why I was asking for a raise in the first place was not necessarily to be like, look at all the work I'm doing. Like that was valid, I thought, but I needed to pay my bills. I needed more money to pay my rent. And so it hurt when that was the reason I went, and I was so passionate, and it got rejected. And I understand it could have been out of their control, but just how the cards, they ended up aligning, it sucked at that moment. I then moved on that December, and I had a wintermester class, and it was with a professor, the worst professor I've ever had personally. And I'm not going to say it's not even worth it, but I've never seen someone who lacked so much care. It was embarrassing because I could see the negative words and just the flat out incivility that I saw from this gentleman. All right, yeah, he's not even the flat out incivility I saw from this man. It was all a reflection of how he probably sees himself. Like that was such a realization to me, but it was hard because I really care about learning. And so when I don't have a passionate professor and I have someone who can care less, it almost seems like, and they're very transactional, that's hard for me because I'm almost like, well, why are you here? Like, why are you teaching if all you care about is just getting people past your classroom?
It's hard to grow in that type of environment.
Absolutely. And do you remember, was there anything that stuck out to you in that kind of December month for you as we continue to kind of unpack that?
Anything that stuck out to me regarding you?
Yeah, like maybe thoughts I was sharing with you at the time, because keep in mind, people, the podcast wasn't out yet. The podcast was something I wanted to start during winter break. I was going to start this podcast I was really passionate about right after I just left, a tremendous opportunity or a tremendous organization that I very much appreciated. And then on top of that, I'm in this new wintermester class that I don't have the best professor and someone who's really encouraging me in my studies that I'm putting hours into each day.
Yeah, I remember, you being a little distracted by that. Mm-hmm. But as I've told you in the past, those are the type of opportunities where you can learn what not to do.
Right.
And even though the environment may not be healthy and the best environment for growth, it still is a place for you to learn.
Right.
And we did talk a lot about, that is really just truly a reflection of him. Mm-hmm. And it is unfortunate, and we kind of have pity for people who don't have that joy within themselves and don't even really enjoy the work that they're doing. So just hoping that one day he did find that joy inside of himself, but just reminding you to learn from any situation you're in, good or bad, and you did just that. You tackled that.
Okay. That's spot on, because I do recall that as well. Moving into January, I ended the wintermester class, thank God, was able to get out with an A, survived, but I was still broke. I didn't have a job, and I know what they say, you should have another job lined up before you leave the former one. But that's just, I was so unhappy and so frustrated that they didn't see me, that I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to give them my everything if they didn't even see that in me. And so then I started believing myself in the sense of this next job I get, I'm not just going to jump into something that will pay my bills quickly, that doesn't really give me any transferable skills moving forward. I want to get into something where I have autonomy, like I did at the last role, something that gives me the chance to challenge myself, to bet on myself, to learn new things in the process. And when I would share this with different people in my village, they would, yeah, that's a unicorn. That's hard to find, all while saying, I can only give you about 20 or 25 hours because I'm a full-time student. That's a hard ask, but I believed in myself. I knew that there was a time perhaps that it would come, but it didn't for a while, and I suffered. And each and every month I saw myself, oh, well, here's rent that's coming up and I don't have any money in my bank account. And it really had to check me. It was the first time I felt financial struggle. I got to see how far reaching it is in your life, how it doesn't just affect one area. how money is tied to so many things. I've never had a time where, I looked down on myself. It was hard because when I'm low, when I didn't have money, when I'm asking for help, I had to fight that societal norm of like not being vulnerable, like asking for help. And so I had to ask for help to people at times. I had to ask to help from my brother a million different times. Malik, I love you. Thank you for everything. I had
You're
to
the
ask
best,
Malik's help.
Malik.
Right. Like I had to ask for his help and he continuously supported me. I had to ask for, thank you, Bernard, Bernie, my man. Thank you so much. I had to ask different friends in my network for assistance, and it hurt because I just had to fight that barrier. And at the same time, I'm hungry. Like at the same time, I feel there's feelings of hunger. And I realized I was never in a financial situation to where I was like starving. It was more, I just was making poor decisions and I was overthinking a lot of things. So if I got to spend $8, well, damn, that's putting a dent in my wallet at least. And I'm overthinking it. And that's leading to me making poor decisions. Because here's another thing, when you're at a low, your margin, especially financially, your margin for errors, ironically, is smaller. You have less
Mm-hmm.
room for error, yet you have so many landmines around you. You have so many obstacles that you have to face, yet you have the smallest room for error compared to other people. I was very much challenged for one of the first times in my mature age, I'll say. But then I want to talk a little bit why it's been a high. Why I sit here and I'm sharing this message today. I'm still breathing. I still have this opportunity. My mom, we would talk together all the time, right? And you would tell me it's temporary. It's temporary. And then we started getting to a point where we said, yes, it is, but we want almost are crazy because we want to be here. We want to be a little crazy and we want to be here because we're going to get away from this regardless. There's going to be a day where money's not going to be an issue. We're not going to think about that at all. But
I
what we
said,
can learn in this time, as you were saying.
we're supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you
Yeah.
were supposed to be because
Yeah.
you gotta know what this feels like. Because in the future, when you're not in this situation anymore, you're gonna remember back to this moment
Right.
where you felt those feelings and it's going to remind you, it's going to drive you, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to it's going to give you the fuel to keep going. And then not only
Mm-hmm.
that, but it's going to help you empathize with those who are going through struggles,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
if you ain't been through the struggle, it's really hard to relate to someone who is going through the struggle. And you
Mm.
will now, because of going through this situation, will be able to relate with so many more people.
Yes, ma'am.
You were there. You went through the storm.
Yep.
But like you said in the very beginning, it's all about perspective. And when you started realizing, okay, God has me here for a reason. There's a reason why I'm in this moment.
Mm.
And I'm going to make the best out of it. I'm going to take all the good from it and I'm going to grow. And then in the future, I'm going to use it to help others.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. It reminded me of a quote from Jid, JID, the young goat, in Baptize, the song Baptize. And he said, how do you get money and act as if poverty's past tense? That sticks out to me, right? Like, how do you get money
Mm-hmm.
and then act as if poverty's behind you when
Mm-hmm.
you're now in a great position to help those that are in poverty,
Exactly.
right? And that's how I felt like in my situation. I could, like, yes, I'm going to be past this. And so I can go away and be like, just be bitter for these next 3 months, 4 months, however long I'm struggling for. And then walk away when I get money and be ignorant, right? And not really think about what are the things I could have been present in? What are the barriers I could have noticed back then when I was struggling that now I can assist when I have the opportunity to help?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what kept me going too, was just understanding this is temporary, but this is monumental in terms of what we can change, how we can impact others just through being present and not hurrying up and trying to rush past it. Like you said, we are here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many other things that happened that were good. I'm going to start to kind of wrap this up, but the other things that were good, we released the podcast. Like the podcast came out, something that I was so passionate about for so long that I tried. I had one other podcast, Meaningful Dialogue, didn't work out. Then tried this, and it's finally in front of me, and all I can think about is my financial struggles. And I think that was a huge part of why I want to talk about lowest highs, is because when you are low, it tends to, it clouds out what is good. You're almost blind to those positives now because you're so
Mm-hmm.
caught up on what's low. You're blind to it. And so this whole point of the conversation, me sharing my moment, this experience, is to just try to push forward a movement to inspire change in this sense of looking at whatever moment you find yourself in, and just seeing how can it impact others one day. Like, how can you take whatever you're getting from this? We need to be seeking those positives. I just want to say, with this whole experience, I wanted to share with you, as much as it may seem, stuff is figured out. I got my life on track. Everything is lined up. Mykel is he seems super successful. And I was dealing with it. And I hope that serves as a source of inspiration. If you're a peer of mine that goes to the school and you're like, how the hell, you would have never knew that. Exactly. That strength is within you, times 10. That strength to just continue to power through no matter what's in front of you, because you know you're capable of overcoming it. And on the cherry on top is, how can you use this experience to impact others?
Yeah.
Right. Mom, what's the lowest high for you? Maybe recently, maybe in the past, something that kind of gives our listeners another taste of what this all means, and maybe helps them empathize and relate more.
Yeah. As you know, I have a few major low highs in my life. I will say the most recent one was when I lost my job at the bank.
Right.
That was December of 2020. And that was at the same time COVID was going on. You left to go back to school. So losing my job, now being an empty nester, both of my kids are now 7 hours away from me. That was, I would say, probably one of the top 3 lowest highs of my life. Just for all the ladies out there, or for anybody out there, empty nest syndrome is real. When your kids leave, especially with the type of relationship me and you guys had, like, we did everything together. It was cooked together, ate together, did sports events every day together. I mean, we just did everything together. So having that go from every day something with you or your brother to nothing at all
Mm-hmm.
was a very hard time for me. And then having lost my job on top of that, you can imagine there was a lot of extra time for me to think about stuff. But in that moment, I decided, okay, I can continue to feel sorry for myself, be depressed that my kids aren't near me right now, be depressed that I no longer have a job that I was pretty passionate about. Or I can take this moment and I can look in the mirror and really make some changes within myself.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, and that was the first time in my life I've ever really looked in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for the people who may not know, I had Malik at 15 and I had you at 18. I went from being a teenager to a full-time mom, which I don't regret at all. But now here I am in my 30s and I'm alone for the first time in my life. And the 2 people who really were my driving source are now away to college or away in Reno. So that was a huge moment for me. I feel like now, fast forward to today, I'm in a very good place. I got through those tough moments. And for me, I think I started saying, okay, instead of feeling bad that I don't have my kids here anymore, why don't I be grateful
Mm.
for what we did have when they were here?
Right.
And what we still do have, no matter where the hell they go in this world, that bond that we have created is unbreakable.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, to take it a step further, I started to think about the women out there who don't have the opportunity to have children.
Mm.
There's women out there who can't even have children.
Right.
And here I am, have experienced motherhood times 2 with what I consider the most amazing people in the world. I got to experience that. I got to go through that. I got to experience that love. I should be grateful every day, no matter where you guys are.
Right.
So again, perspective, you just have to, sometimes you got to switch up the way you're thinking, and it's amazing what that will do for you. Kind of go into how we recently talked about waking up in the morning and just starting off our day with what we're grateful for.
Yep.
How powerful that is. And that's the same thing you can do when you're in your lowest times of your life, or you're experiencing very hard times in your life. It's amazing how if you just find something positive and latch onto that and remind yourself of that every day, it can do a lot of benefit. It can
And
really help you.
it's there. Like, it's evident. It's right in front of you. Steve Harvey, you sent me a TikTok before where Steve Harvey was telling his audience a really passionate message about, I can name about 20 different things you ought to be grateful for right now. And that's how
Mm-hmm.
he's like, whenever he feels stressed or nervous or over, he immediately goes to what he's grateful for. And it
Mm-hmm.
makes so much sense, and it helps because you start to really realize, well, damn, like I got so much that I can be grateful for, that I should smile about right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think at times we have to fight loss aversion, a bias of losses loom larger than gains, or at least of what's in front of us. What stuff being taken away from us hurts 10 times more as something being given. And isn't that
Mm-hmm.
crazy? Because that gets to another point. As you're frustrated because you're in this low and you feel like things are being lost from you, you're not even paying attention or giving credit towards what's being given to you in that period. I heard
Mm-hmm.
another quote. I got to come out with these rap bars from Omen, and he said, "Trip the hurdle, but the ground I walk is fertile." And I love,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it doesn't matter if you fall. The ground you walk on, the ground you have the privilege, the blessing of living on, is fertile for you at all times. You always have the opportunity to change things within you. And if you're too restrained physically, okay, then psychologically it's time to tap in. Psychologically, where can you take your mind to a new place? Spiritually, do you need to connect to a higher power? Do you need to connect to God in some type of way? So I love what you brought that up there, and it teased that question that I mentioned earlier, just being grateful and how that can help you so much when you even of how to look at this from a perspective of lowest highs. And so I love that. I want to also move into, well, hold on. Was there another experience you wanted to share or expand on that last experience? I think you brought up a good point though. There's a lot of even women I know in my life. I've been blessed to know so many professionals that have dealt with similar situations where their kids have gone off to college or their kids are about to go off to college. And it's like, oh, shoot, like what is going on? What advice do you have for them? I know you already gave great advice, but really, what would you tell them if you have the mic right now?
Wow. Well, the advice I would give is, first off, just remember that you are always their mommy. You will always be their mom, no matter what. But now it's time for you to find ways to support them in their adult lives. What I've kind of focused on is just watching your guys' journey, of course, being a part of it also, but just finding ways that I can support you in your adult life. And then the best part of it all is now you have time to focus on yourself more.
Mm-hmm.
So, great time to find out what things you love to do, what hobbies you love. If you don't already know, it's a great time to learn that about yourself, which is kind of where I'm at.
Look inwards, because I thought that was interesting thing that you did to really deal with it. Your situation was, even though externally, there's no bodies around you anymore. So your external environment changed, and yet you looked internally on how you can solve that. I remember you told me, if I can love myself as much as I love you and your brother, then I would be unstoppable. And that really stuck out to me. So unpack that a
Wow.
bit.
Yeah, that has definitely been a journey of mine. Everybody is different. Like I said, going from being a 14-year-old to a mother, I never really experienced getting to know myself, getting to love myself, understand who I am as a person, because I kind of went from being a teenager into putting everything I had into being a mother.
Right.
So for me, looking in the mirror now is like I said, the first time I've ever had the opportunity to do that. But when I was sitting in the house all alone, feeling bad, feeling sad, feeling lonely, I kind of started to say, like, I don't even really know myself.
Mm.
How can I love myself if I don't really even know myself? I've never really had the opportunity to know who I really am. I know what other people think. I know what I portray myself to be, but you know, the love that I had for you and your brother, I wanted to have that love for myself. And so my journey has been just every day getting up, starting my day with what I'm grateful for, you know, and dealing with any issues that I have.
Love it. I also want to shift the conversation now away from the really good experiences. I'm sure our listeners appreciated that, but more into some tips, right? Like maybe some gems that we have, oxymoronic gems around the topic, things to remember when you feel low. If I were to pose that question to you, what advice would you give for things to remember when you feel low? I'm curious to know what you would say, but I'll start off with one as your wheels are turning. Coach Rich, amazing Coach Rich, he gave me great insight throughout my struggle last semester. And he put in terms of like, you're in a car, right? And typically when life is good, you're going 60 miles an hour. So you're driving down the road, there's a bunch of trees around you, it's really green. So you're going 60. You can't see what's on the side of you, you see what's in front of you. But when you might have some struggle, you might be forced to go at a slower speed, say 20. 20 is definitely much different from 60, so you'll feel that, right? And you'll have to deal with that. But at the same time, now look around you. Look to your left and right. There goes a deer that just ran through the bushes or just ran through the woods. Wow, look how beautiful that plant is over there. Just as you saw it as you're slowly driving by, things become so much more clear. And for me personally, if I have to tie it to a situation from my experience, was the power of my village. I call everyone that is supporters of me and supporters of my journey, and I speak with them frequently. I call them my village. They're kind of following the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise me to the highest level I desire to be at. And so I've never in a time period realized how strong and how meaningful my village is. And that starts with my brother, right? And, just filling out, seeing, I would have never thought our relationship could, kind of go on different heights, and broaden our horizons towards what's possible in our friendship. But I have seen it, and not just because he's given me money, but because we've had to be more vulnerable through that. I've had to explain more things. I've had to really open up to him, and also he's opening up to me, and I'm able to see things that he's dealing with. And so it's been so beautiful. And it really reiterated that point that Coach Rich brought up. When you're in lows at times, remember that some things are only visible to you when you are in lows, when you're slowed down. Be grateful for that. And again, here's our term, being grateful.
Like I've always said, when you're at your lowest time, I think that's the opportunity for the most growth.
Yes, ma'am.
Because, you have the opportunity to really focus on the good things that are in your life. And a lot of times I say, it's the things that money can't buy, if you think about it. It's the love, it's the support, it's the encouragement, it's, just being able to call your mom every night and have a great conversation about how your day went, having that support system, the people around you, your family. A lot of times it's, for me, as simple as waking up and being thankful for the walls around me.
Facts.
Like I told you, like having a ceiling over my head, having some food in the fridge. A lot of times we take those things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And until you don't have them, a lot of times we overlook the simple things in life. But again, I think it's all about your perspective. You know, you have a choice. Do you want to wake up in the morning and focus on all the things that are not going right in your life? Or do you choose to wake up in the morning and yeah, you know, I'm at a low point in life, but let me go ahead and focus on the positive that's going on, because there's a lot of positive going on.
Facts.
It's amazing what that will do when you switch your mind to focus on the positive and not so much the negative.
Going off of that, I want to bring up two other points. And we may be saying some of the same things over in a different way, but that's good. I want it to really be drilled down, and I really want to be sure we're clear on these things. Understand you are exactly where you need to be. You as a listener, if you're in a situation where you're at a low, you can just think of it at the top of your head. It's at the forefront of your mind right now. I'm here to tell you, you are exactly where you need to be. And that sounds crazy, doesn't it? Like, Mykel, I thought you were much smarter than that. I'm not lying. But it's all about oxymorons, right? The things that we may not see tied together. You being present in this moment of struggle is exactly where you need to be. It's exactly what you need to accept. And guess what, my friend? You are extremely powerful, because you have the power literally right now. Stop the recording and do whatever you literally right now. You can change how you tackle a situation, right? I didn't say that things are going to drastically change on you being in the situation, but how you tackle it, how you approach it. Are you still looking at it like, damn, like, why am I still in this? Or are you waking up tomorrow saying, this data has no idea what it has in store. This day doesn't know what's coming for them. I'm going to maximize this day. I'm going to maximize each and every opportunity that I have. And I don't care what situation I find myself in, I'm on fertile ground.
Yes. Preach.
Receive it, just accept it. What's been high, seek it. These are all things that are in your power. And I know this is not an exhaustive list, and these are just the main ways we tend to deal with things when we're low, and we found success with it so far. And so I want to do a call to action to all the listeners. Are there some different ways that you may deal with it, that you tackle barriers in your life? Share it with us. Drop a comment on www.themykelbroodypodcast.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And Mamas, do you have any other thoughts, by the way? Do you have any other things you want to encourage our listeners to remember when they feel low?
So everybody goes through struggles in life. Everybody goes through hard times. That's just part of life. But the beautiful thing about it is it's not the situation you're in, it's how you deal with that situation.
Yes, ma'am.
So just understanding that, even in the tough times, control the controllable.
I love it. And I want to build on top of that, because thankfully it reminded me of another strong point that really helped me that I hope is beneficial. Your emotions matter. I think in this society, a lot of times we look at emotions as a bad thing, like, oh my gosh, you're being way too emotional, right? Especially with masculinity and all that. That's a huge problem. But emotions tell you how you feel about certain things. Literally, if you're mad, well, now you know. When someone throws a rock at you, you get mad. Although that's a very simple example, you get what I'm saying. What I'm trying to get at is if you ever feel down, if you feel low, it's okay. But you don't feed into that. You use that. Lawanda sent me something before where it said emotion, think of it more as data for you, right? Like really think of how you feel. Take note of that. So if you feel a certain way, immediately be present, take note. How will you tackle the situation differently? Now, I also want to bring this up because I never want to say deal with your emotions by blocking them out, by not acting as if they're not there, right? I feel like you're lying to yourself if you feel sad, but you don't ever let that come out, even behind closed doors. It's okay to cry. I've never cried more in my life than this past semester, but it's been amazing because I'm very clear on now what I am passionate about, what has been affecting me, and I can start to tackle it from there. And so as we wrap up today's discussion, as always, we have a challenge for all the listeners, including myself. Thank you to Lawanda for including me and making this the new normal. Miss Jessica Broady, what challenge do you have for our listeners today?
Challenge I have is no matter where you are in life, no matter what struggles you're going through, no matter what lows or highs, when you wake up in the morning, before you even get out of bed, name off 5 things that you're the most grateful for.
Mm.
It is amazing what that will do to help start your day the right way. It's something I've been practicing, and I can say it works. You definitely start your day off right by saying what you're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage all the listeners to try it and see if it does anything for them, because it definitely has helped me.
And it will. I trust it. I absolutely do. My friend, again, I want to reiterate something I brought up earlier in the conversation. I don't know your situation, but I'm with you. I don't know who you are, but I'm with you. I'm using this platform for you. This is for you to grow. You know, this is not, again, not something for me to shine a light on myself. I'm with it. I'm with you on your journey, right? In whatever capacity I can be. But what's so exciting is that I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one in this world who moves like this. You saw LaWanda Stone on Exemplify Kindness, right? There's people just have this crazy energy, right? That is just unfathomable to some of us. But we move with kindness. We move with love. We move with encouragement. I don't come from a location, a place, right? I don't come from somewhere on the map. I come from an energy of excellence, an energy of confidence, an energy of constantly betting on yourself, an energy of uplifting others, an energy of having a spotlight but destroying it so others can see that they're a huge part of the spotlight as well. That's where we come from. And I hope that's your truth as well. As you move forward in this week, and this evening, wherever you find yourself listening to this, what energy do you come from? That's an important question I want to ask you. And how can you make wherever situation you're dealing with a low is high, if it is a low to you at this moment? Thank you so much for listening today. Next week, you will hear from another amazing guest, Mr. Andre Love. We'll talk about certain uncertainty, and he's dealt with just his fair share of hardships, but he has the confidence, he has the care, and he has the drive to share his story with everyone. Thank you, Mom, for joining the podcast. I'm sure we'll talk here soon.
Thank you so much. Let's hit the music. 3, 2, 1.
Duh, duh. No, I'm just playing. Let's hit the music.